Hello again. We need to go through the second half of question 4F. We've already done a pedigree based on an autosomal allele. So now we're going to produce a pedigree based on a sex-linked allele. And so the same approach, so the males are still squares and the females are still circles. The only difference here is the type of dominance. We're doing a sex-linked recessive disorder. Now, there's two choices here. You could either do color blindness or hemophilia. Now, since in the earlier core question we tackled color blindness, I'm going to use hemophilia here. So I'll use the H for the hemophilia. These are the individuals whose blood doesn't clot properly. And we'll talk more specifically about hemophilia when we get into the beginning of Core 10. We'll actually talk about blood clotting. So hemophilia is a recessive disorder. So these individuals, these hemophiliacs, carry 2 copies if they're female, 1 copy if they're male, of the hemophilia allele. Whereas there are those of us that carry the dominant H, and they are a healthy or typical individual. Fine. So, same idea. You have a male and a female. These individuals are both healthy. And since on the first pedigree that we did, I said that they had 3 children, so let's do this again. So let's say that they have an affected son here. Let's say that they have an unaffected son here and an unaffected female. So here are your healthy parents and a sick child. Well, you already know that if you have a sick child, you've got some carriers up here. So then this male here reproduces with a healthy female. They are going to produce 2 healthy females. This healthy female reproduces with a healthy male. They produce 2 children. Let's say a healthy daughter and a sick or affected male. I shouldn't say sick, I should say affected. Then over here, we have a female that reproduces with a healthy male. Same thing, watch your line distance here and try to get these generations to line up like such. And let's say that they produce let's say 2 healthy females as well. And then she's going to reproduce with an affected male. This is not a blood member of the family. And then they're going to produce an affected female. So here's a pedigree. It's more complicated, of course. It's sex-linked. So since this is hemophilia and since it's sex-linked, we need to go back and we need to put the sex chromosomes on each of these individuals. Okay, so let's double check that. Male, female, male, female, male, female, male, female, female, male, male, female, 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 male, female. Beautiful. All right, so let's just take it person by person, generation to generation. So he's a healthy male. Since he's a healthy male, the allele that he carries on his X is a dominant H. Don't forget, in sex-linked traits, males only carry 1 of the alleles because we're males and we only have 1 X. Then over here, the female, she's healthy, therefore dominant H. At this point, we don't know what she is over here. They have a son. The son is affected, therefore he has a little h here. He's affected, okay? Now you sit down and say, okay, where did this come from? Well, it didn't come from the male, because if a male carries hemophilia, he expresses it. He can't hide it. He only has one X. So therefore we work backwards, and this had to have come from his biological mother. She's a carrier. She's heterozygote. So then their son here is healthy, right? The Y comes from the biological father. That's why this individual is male. And on the X, he had a 50-50 chance. This male could have been a typical male or could have been a hemophiliac. It's a lucky young man. There you go, 50-50 chance. Their daughter here, okay, she's healthy, so she gets the big H. But her other allele, we don't know. Okay, because this big H could have been from mom, so this other one could be from dad, or this one could be from her father, and this one could be, this second one, she could have received the dominant or the recessive. We don't know. Or at least not yet. The daughter, excuse me, this is not a daughter. This is the female who's going to reproduce with this male. She's healthy, so it's a big H, and we don't know. They produce daughters, okay? These daughters are both healthy. Since they're healthy, they both have big H. Do we know what their second X is? Okay, we do. Because their father only has one X, he donates that X to his daughters. The X chromosome, one of the X chromosomes that Emily carries, is from me. I only have one X to offer her. So if I am a hemophiliac, I am going to pass that on to my son, of course. No, that's not true. I'm going to pass it on to my daughter. My son receives only my Y. All right, so now we have a carrier female here. She reproduces with a healthy male. Healthy male. They produce 2 children. The daughter here, their daughter here is healthy. Her second X, well, she could have picked up this X, or she could have picked up that X. There's no way to tell. We don't know what that one is. So the male over here, the male here is affected. I didn't leave myself very much room there, did I? So that's XH. I'm going to rewrite that. That's going to be XHY, like that. It's going to be X little hy. He's a hemophiliac, and he received that X from his biological mother. So this here, to that there. All right, so let's go back up here. Is there any way that we could determine what this X is? Well, it would have been to the daughters, and there's no way to tell. So we still don't know what that is. So even though she produced children, we still don't know. All right, let's go over on the far right-hand side. The male here, the male is healthy, so he's got a big H. We then go to their 2 daughters. Their 2 daughters are both healthy. Is there any way to tell what their second allele is? No, there's no way to tell. All right, so at this point, we don't know. So let's take a look at the daughter down here. She's a hemophiliac. In order for a female to be a hemophiliac, she has to have little h's on both of her X's. She has to have the recessive allele on both X's. Well, then what does this tell us? It tells us that these 2 X's came from her biological parents. Here and here. Well, we already knew that her biological father was a hemophiliac. That's where she got one of her X's. So the daughter, whenever a female is hemophiliac, okay, if a female is hemophiliac, her biological father had to be a hemophiliac, okay? Whereas the other allele came from this female here, came from her biological mother. Well, we didn't know that earlier, so where did this one come from? Ah, this one came from the biological mother here. And where did this one come from? Oh, that one came from here. So sometimes you get to the very bottom of a pedigree and you find out what the child is here. That feeds back to 2 here, that feeds back to 3 here, and that feeds back to 4 here. So when IB asks this on the exam, and they love to ask about pedigrees, they may give you the pedigree and ask you to do what we just did and work your way through it. They can even make this a Scantron question. They can say, what is the phenotype of that person right there? What's the genotype of that person right there? Okay. Or they give you the blank piece of paper on a short answer diagram and they ask you to produce a pedigree. They can go either way. So make up your own pedigree. If you want to do hemophilia, great. If you prefer color blindness, that's fine too. It just needs to be a sex-linked allele and you will end up with 2 pedigrees on 4F, one for an autosomal allele and one for a sex-linked. Enjoy.